I ended up going to Northern Illinois to play football, though, to play college football. And it was one of my only scholarship offers that I had. And, at the time, Northern Illinois was really struggling as a program and, had one of the longest losing streaks, I think, in NCAA history when I got there. But it forced me as a freshman to go in and contribute right away and to kind of grow up to where if I would have gone to a bigger school, I think, some of those trappings that, the fun stuff in college really can be a distraction. I think going to Northern and having to kind of step up and thrust into kind of a more of a leadership role right away really helped me as a young athlete and eventually as a person. Growing up, I had two, I can't stress enough. My parents did a fantastic job raising us three boys in terms of being well-rounded. And I never was the most vocal, person growing up. I was kind of an introvert, but I was always very, very competitive in sports especially. And my mother used to tell me, like, you don't have to be the guy who's being loud and cheering and drawing attention to himself, but you could lead by your examples. And also by the effort that I show consistently on a daily basis and just the integrity and just a quiet intensity that I would show. And I think my mother really stressed that with all three of us and kind of, all those cliches where you hear you lead, follow, or get out of the way. I mean, we were hearing that as kids, be a leader. Don't just because your friends are screwing around in class or getting distracted, it was always pounded in our heads from both of my parents. And I actually wrote some of these things down because I cheated and watched some of your other interviews, but I wanted to make sure I got these points across because I remember vividly the things that helped me and that can be applied today. And even though there's a lot of distractions and a lot of things, a lot of entertainment available now than there more so than when I was a kid, you could use all those resources. You could use the DVR. You could use YouTube to learn about to learn from people who are better than you. Not just going to watch people better than you up close, which I highly recommend. But one of the things I tell young people all the time is, you want to catch the ball like Odell Beckham. You could watch with the camera angles that they have now with football. You could rewind pass routes and look at the things he's doing and the fundamentals that he's displaying, on live TV. You could go on YouTube and watch him train and watch some of the drills or just flat out learn whatever you want to learn, even if it's not sports. And there's so many resources for kids nowadays that, if you have a passion, you have to have a passion. You can't just think I'm going to go out every Sunday and be a good football player if I don't watch football, if I don't watch people who are better than me, even if it's at the high school level or the college level. And you have to be able to humble yourself and look at yourself and say, what are my weaknesses? What could I improve on? And how do I figure that out? Where do I go to learn those things or learn how to practice or how to fix those weaknesses? Another thing I would say is to write down your goals. And I can remember reading a book in college when I was really, really concerned about getting drafted at the end of my college career, and I had to prepare for the combine. But I wrote down on the wall some of my goals about what, how I wanted my senior season to go. And then get more specific about what do I need to do? What are my weaknesses here? Okay, I need to get faster. Well, how do I need to get faster? How do I need to run a better 40? Put those things on the wall so every time I walk past the mirror, I see those things and I'm reminded, you know what I mean? This is my goal. Like, don't get distracted by whatever it is in your life and keep focused. And I think writing things down really helps internalize it and solidify it in your brain. Another thing I think people are losing the ability to do is to visualize. You don't always have to be out in the field. And I know there's been plenty of studies, with visualization over the years, but I figured out what worked for me and what I needed to do. And I can remember laying in bed, and I still do it, even for things like this where I still get nervous talking to a camera and doing interviews, but just rehearsing some of the things that I may have to do the next day, or if I have to, if I'm no good at shooting free throws, not only am I practicing every day at the gym, but I could spend time before bed closing my eyes, going through from start to finish in detail in my mind, in my mind's eye, the fundamentals about, how I need to do it perfectly. And then I could see myself being successful at what I'm trying to do, and feeling the emotions of afterwards. And it really helps you confidence-wise and skill-wise, and it works. It sounds silly, but it's very easy to do. And I try to tell my son every night, like, think about, you're worried about running track tomorrow. Think about your start before you go to bed. Go over it in slow motion, in regular speed, from a third person point of view, so you could see yourself being successful. And I promise you it will help. Lastly, I'd say surround yourself with the right people, the right type of friends. You may have a good, it's good to be loyal, and it's good to, keep your boys with you, but sometimes there's people, you kind of have to shake off, because they might be dragging you down, and hearing negativity in your ear all the time, or whether it's people complaining or whatever, that, that's going to hurt you. Try to be around people who are better than you, or try to hang out with people that you want to be like, especially if you're on a new team, or in a new job. Find that person. You don't have to go kiss his butt or go, but go up to that person and get to know them, and kind of pick their brain about a few things. And I remember as a young officer, my FTO saying, sooner or later you're gonna have to decide what type of cop you want to be, and then find those guys in your unit, and start to buddy up to them, and learn from them, and go from there. And I don't know, those are some things that I think really need to be focused on for young people, and that's what I tell the people I come to. Oh man, I'll be honest. I chose that major mainly, for class reasons.
Yeah.
I knew I needed to get a degree, but I just wasn't positive. I knew I wanted to play football in my next career, and that was a very big focus of mine. I also knew I needed to graduate as a backup plan. And math wasn't a strong class for me, so I did what I had to do to schedule-wise to kind of massage my my career, or my classes, to make sure that I was most successful. And I think communications was, you could go a lot of places with that. So I remember reading, a lot of times what you major in is not what you end up doing anyways. So like I said, I just wanted to get good grades and get that degree.
Gotcha. So hypothetically, let's just say you couldn't play football and you had to go back to your freshman year of college. What would you pursue?
Probably a criminal justice degree, if I could go back. Just because I it wasn't on the radar then to be a police officer, and it really turned out to be a good fit for me after football. It's kind of a job where you have to be a people person, and you have to kind of have the a mentor or a mediator mentality a lot of the times. Mm-hmm. So it was a great fit for me as an officer, and I think if I could go back, I would have really focused on it as a long-term career. I think as a freshman, I even thought, as a freshman, I remember coming in early and not knowing anything about where I really stood. And until you get on the field with college level guys, you really don't know. It's a whole different ballgame. And I remember as a freshman realizing I could play with these guys. I'm big enough, I'm fast enough, I could do this, and I could be successful. And it's going to take some time, but my confidence right when I stepped on campus was kind of there. And then I saw some of the seniors after my freshman year go on to get opportunities in the NFL and as late draft picks or free agents, and have some success. And then confidence-wise, I remember saying, that's all I need is a shot. If I can keep improving every year and get a foot in the door, I'll make the most of it. So I really believed right off the bat that, anything was possible. And I had, like I said, I had great parents, and I had my girlfriend at the time, who is my wife now, who were always in my ear and encouraging me. And I'm somebody who was, was pretty hard on myself and would often get down after bad practices or bad games. And I was surrounded by some really good people who picked me up and kept me kind of focused and just kept me positive and believing in myself. And that dream never, it just grew as I kept improving each year. Well, my signing bonus is a 4th round pick. I remember it's still there. I set it aside right away. And again, I'll go back to the parents. My father's an MBA, spent over 40 years in the investment industry. He's now retired, but the guy was a guru. So to save and to plan for the future was kind of just in my DNA. Both my brothers are in finances as well. And so I knew right away that this isn't forever. This isn't a job that I'm going to be doing for 25, like he did, for 40 years, where I'm going to, retire at 60. Like there's a shelf life as an athlete, especially an NFL player. And I was always aware that, it could be gone right away. So, I'm very proud to say I did a great job saving my money and planning, even before I had kids, for their future. And making sure that, that I could have a standard of living that I could maintain for the rest of my life. And, I was very lucky to have people around me. And, my wife, again, is one of those people who still is flipping coupons and looking for deals when she doesn't have to, and it's embarrassing sometimes, but, I love her, and I'm proud the way she thinks. And that's, I think it's easy to try to keep up with the Joneses nowadays, in any situation that you're in. And it's most important to be happy, make sure you're family. But yeah, I made sure, like I said, I knew it was going to be over eventually, and there's a lot I couldn't control. So I put some money away right away, and I still budget. And I think that's an important skill to be passed on to young athletes. Pro sports, yeah, it's the greatest job in the world, and the reason is it's you're doing the same thing you were in college, but now you got money in your pocket. But then that money and that freedom, there's a lot of obviously a lot that goes into it, and a lot more responsibility for a 20-something-year-old person all of a sudden have enough money to go buy what he wants to buy, when that's never been the case his whole life. And it's tough when you don't have people, who've been in that experience before, kind of to guide you. It's very easy to spend, as everybody knows, no matter how much money you have. And I feel that, like I said, aside from budgeting, there needs to be time management because now your coaches you're a professional now. This is a job. This is, you're part of a team, and we're counting on you. And if you're not performing or you're not doing your job, they're going to find somebody else who will. And, to avoid those distractions, and we know what they are, girls and nightlife and, or partying or drugs or drinking, minimize the exposure to those things. It's okay to go out and have a good time responsibly. But in reality, I mean, if you talk to champions and guys who have been doing it the longest and who have spent 15 years in the NFL, and you look at those veteran guys and how they're living, most likely they're doing what they have to do off the field, and they're living the right way. And I think, finding those people and kind of, again, attaching yourself to them to kind of, gain some more life experience out, in that locker room will really benefit those young players. Yeah, why police, man? Well, first of all, one of my favorite things about playing in the NFL and playing team sports was the team, being part of a team. and not just, you know, not just winning, not just games and winning and losing, but the process of, you know, the off-season work, the practices, the traveling, the locker room. Like, you know, it was a big part of my life since I was a young person, and I knew I needed a job with that sort of bond. And police work, you know, obviously it's serious business, you know, and you know, it's one of those jobs where after briefing, you're fist bumping guys when you go out there, and you're geared up, and you know you got to be locked in, and I'm counting on this person, you know, these people next to me who I'm working with you know, who have different backgrounds, different personalities, different interests, but you know what I mean? Just like football, we're all counting on each other to do our jobs and to cover each other's backs. And that was something I was interested in. And also just to challenge myself by doing something that I was unfamiliar with. You know, I could have gotten into coaching right away and stayed in kind of that football environment where it was safe. You know, I could have probably gone into doing what my father and my brothers did and gotten into that world. But I wanted to, you know, I want to kind of blaze my own path and try something completely new and unfamiliar to me. And, you know, I didn't know much about police work. I didn't have any family members or close friends who were officers. So it was the excitement of going into something completely unknown and just relying on myself to learn and to become a good officer and to contribute. Another reason was, you know, I feel like I'm naturally a people person, you know, and I have a good knack for putting myself in other people's shoes, which is a good quality for an officer and a detective to have, is to not just solving crimes or solving problems, but just mediating and diffusing situations. And I enjoy that. I enjoy helping people, and I enjoy solving problems, and again, working with other people who have the same mindset. And I think lastly, you know, it's exciting. You know, one of the things I always say is, you know, what else is going to compare to returning punts in an NFL stadium, you know, in the playoffs? You know, to me, that was like the ultimate rush. And where else am I going to get that level of intensity that I enjoyed? And I really kind of needed after the game. And as opposed to riding motorcycles or, you know, skydiving or something, and that job has a lot of boring parts to it, but then, you know, you could be sitting around typing for hours, and next thing you know, you're driving 90 miles an hour across town to a situation that you don't know, you know, what's coming. And that's exciting, and I enjoyed it. And not a lot of people, I think, are built that way, but it was something that I enjoyed, and the people I around, you know, you wouldn't get into that job if that really wasn't part of you. So I guess those are some reasons. Yeah. Well, after, you know, you gain a certain level of experience, each department's different, but as a rookie, you know, you're going to spend a year or so on the road and in training and on probation. And in our department, after that, you could try out for SWAT, which was a part-time gig. You know, it's just another chance for me to get in even more of a team environment. So where now it's, you know, now you're with really like-minded guys who, you know, the guys who want to be first through the door all the time, guys who you know, who really are looking, who, you know, most of all, who are in team sports and are looking for that environment and that close-knit bond. And it was great. I mean, it was to me, it was as exciting and as rewarding as being in the NFL, just because of your brothers. You know, you make lifelong relationships, and, you know, you have experiences that you'll never have anywhere else. And like you asked me, the process for that was, you know, just to try out, you know, a tryout in terms of a physical tests, and, you know, shooting tests. You have to be proficient with firearms, and not just that, but problem solving under pressure. And they really, you know, some of the scenarios they put you in really force you to think and there's, oftentimes there's one mistake or one misstep, and that's the end of your day, and you got to wait till next year to try out again. So there was a lot of pressure, and they want to push guys to see how you're going to react in certain situations. And again, that was just something else for me to prepare for, and another challenge for me to overcome. And I'm proud to say I did it. And like I said, it was one of the greatest experiences is being on that team that I'll ever have. For me, it was, I think it's the strain on your family. It's hard. I was lucky that my family understood, it's obviously not the first job that moms and wives want for their family members, but it's tough on them, and not just the dangers or the wondering about what's going on, but oftentimes your hours aren't set. And especially if you take on additional responsibilities like the dive team or negotiators or SWAT, or, you're on call sometimes. And, some of my most memorable experiences were days where I was off, like today, to where you get a page and next thing you know, you're off doing something, again, rushing into a situation that you really don't know too much about. And that wears on your family, and not only that, getting time off, missing holidays, you have to kind of be prepared to, make that part of your life, but also part of your family's life. And I think that's something that really forces people to get out of it early. It's just, it's tougher. It's not something you could really plan for until you're in it. And especially, if you have a wife and kids. Long term, I'd like to not only help my brother and his wife, grow the gym and, and reach more kids and, really kind of just expand our employees and just really grow as a business. But also that is become a better father and, a better father to my kids in terms of mentoring them and making sure that my son, who's now 13 years old in 7th grade, it blows my mind how fast, the time goes, and he's already worrying about, football and track and things like that. And I'm fortunate enough to have the time, in the situation to be able to spend it with them. And I'm mature enough to appreciate that and not try to think, oh, what do I want to do for myself right now? Or, what do I want to achieve? And you know what? It feels pretty good to be able to pick my son up from school and help him with his homework, make sure that he's becoming the type of student that he needs to be successful and reach the goals that he has in his life. And, I think that's kind of my purpose right now, is to really focus for the next couple of years on getting both of, my son and my daughter on track and really building the foundation for them for high school so they could be successful in the next stages of their lives. Stay on task. I find like it seems like a lot of kids, don't have a passion for something yet, where you just kind of like, what do you want to do? What do you want to be in life, and where do you see yourself next year, or what do you maybe see yourself majoring in college, even if it can change? Like, what are you interested in right now? And then going back to the advice I said before, is to learn about those things. Spend time, even if you're a young person who thinks he wants to play football, you don't always have to read Sports Illustrated or watch Sports Center. I remember reading novels as a kid about, football, little young adult novels and things, just because I loved it so much and I couldn't get enough of it. Find your passion and build on it. You know what I mean? It's so easy to be scatterbrained nowadays with so many things pulling you in different directions. And I say the same thing to my son every night is, if you want to be a good coder, computers are your passion, let's get into it. You know what I mean? Let's find some other resources. Let's read some more about it so you could be the best you could be at it. And, you know, it doesn't matter what you want to do, you know, find your passion and attack it, you know, and stay committed. And also baby steps, I think, you know, break those goals down to small things so that things don't get too overwhelming. And no matter what task you're doing, you know, what's the next, what do I have to do next? When things start feeling overwhelming or too tough, think, you know, what's the next step? What do I got to get through today? You know, just worry about tomorrow.